Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to Red Wings Daily, presented to you by FanArch. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, author of The Voices of Hockey. Broadcasters reflect on the fastest game on earth. It's available on audio. You can get it on Audible and Apple Books. That's the end of the plug today, folks. I'm not going to draw it out. Coming to you from the southwest corner of Washington State, 2,454 miles from Little Caesars Arena. Now, LCA has not seen a Red Wings victory since January 18th against the Senators, and I think that was an overtime win. They have lost four straight, 0-2-2 at home. They haven't lost four straight, period. They're basically win, loss, whatever. But they are looking to make it that it's not five in a row at LCA because they're taking on a Florida Panthers team that is starting to really deal. They dealt Jeff Petrie, defenseman. I'll talk about that in the free-for-all section of today's show. But first, looking at the game itself on paper tonight against the Panthers, it says in the score app, when I at least looked it up, it said that Tarasov was the expected goaltender for tonight. That may change because I thought that would be because maybe Sergei Bobrovsky started last night. Then I went to the box score last night while the game was going on and noticed that Florida did not have Bobrovsky in net, but did have Tarasov. So either they're going to have him back-to-back playing against us, a gassed goaltender. Maybe that works to our advantage probably. Or maybe Bobrovsky is going to start in the second of two. But I mentioned in yesterday's show the fact that there was possibilities that they might deal Bobrovsky. I mean, they're looking to kind of unload. When was the last time you saw a two-time defending Stanley Cup champion basically doing a rebuild in the middle of their quest for a three-peat? I don't know. It seems like it's unprecedented, but could be wrong. Looking at Florida, though, on paper, they're 14-14 on the road. The Red Wings are 18-10-3. So despite being 0-2-2 in their last four, they are 18-10-3 overall at home. They've got a really good road record, too. That's kind of been their saving grace this season. Just got to say, some of those games that they may be expected to lose on the road, they've been winning to keep them up here and still be only 3 points out of first place in the Atlantic. But looking at Gibby is scheduled to start, so we finally will get him back. Vote of confidence, just hope that he's in, and hope it's not Talbot again. I'm sorry. I was a little hard on Talbot yesterday, looking at the chat. A lot of people were coming to Talbot's defense, but I'm just saying it takes a team effort. Don't get me wrong. But I did point out the fact that there was 6 times this season where the Red Wings gave him 3 goals of support and they still lost. That's all I'm going to say, okay? Sometimes you got to throw a little blame at the feet of the goaltender. But Gibby's going to be in the crease tonight, so that's good. Basically, Florida's on a 4-game losing streak. And looking at things on an individual basis, Florida right now, offense or goals forced, the advantage goes to Florida. Power play, the advantage goes to Detroit. Defense or goals against goes to Detroit, surprisingly, considering how Sergei Bobrovsky is the goaltender of most of the time of record for Florida. But yes, Gibby has him beat on this as far as GAA. And then penalty kill advantage goes to Florida. So Florida is 7-10-1 against the division, and the Red Wings are 11-4-2. That's one reason one is in third, and the other's basically down there towards the bottom 7 or 8 of the Atlantic. I will talk a little bit about Florida being the sellers in our free-for-all segment. But first, it's time to talk about the Red Wings making a move. And this is an interesting move. I want to put out the fanfare just because this is one of my favorite players of all time, and that's David Perron is coming back to the Red Wings. But not so fast. Let's not sit there and get the fanfare going too loudly because there are conditions based on this trade, this acquisition. Okay. I had to write this down and I have to read it word for word. Okay. Because I really feel like they're just basically, I feel like Ottawa is just sending Perron, who is on the IR. We all maybe should be aware of the fact that he is on the IR. He hasn't played us, or he definitely didn't play us in the last game we played, which was, last week against the Senators. But this is the thing. These are the conditions, okay? So we basically got him for a conditional 4th-round pick, and these are the conditions. If Perron plays before the end of the season, Detroit will send Ottawa Columbus's 4th-round pick. Okay, so all of a sudden Columbus is in here and mixed in with this. If the Wings make the second round and Perron plays 50% of the games in round 1, then Detroit will give Ottawa its third round selection. I have never seen anything like this, folks. I can understand conditional draft picks. There were conditional draft picks all over the board yesterday, and as we basically enter into the next couple hours, this is the end, and this is the trade deadline today. And there was a lot of action yesterday that we'll talk about, but I don't know if I've ever seen something like this where it's basically if we get you and you actually play in the regular season, then so-and-so has to vouch for that pick. If you play and are made available on the roster, you're not a scratch on the roster in the postseason, which when have you ever seen somebody who basically be coming into the postseason on the IR? Well, I'm sure it's happened a lot, especially with the reputation that players have and are ready to get back into the action. But the fact that this is part of the trade clause or trade agreement and everything like that, just really, I've never seen this before. So, like I said, Perron being one of my favorite players, this is awesome for us. I'm really excited. I'm excited for him, but I'll talk about him in the spotlight and tell you why I'm not necessarily as excited as I would have been 2 to 3 years ago. So let's just talk a little bit about all the transactions and a lot of things that happened yesterday. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of conditional in this, so I hope that my vocal cords can say the word conditional effortlessly. So Warren Fogle went to the Senators from the Kings for a second round and conditional third round pick. Oh, and they also sent a conditional third round pick with him to the Kings, or to the Senators. Michael Bunting from the Predators to the Stars for a third round pick. Jet Wu to the Sharks from the Canucks for Jack Thompson. No conditional round picks. No round picks, period. There you go. So, Jeff Petrie. Now, this is what I was talking about. Florida dealt Jeff Petrie to the Wild for a conditional 7th round pick. Whoa, big spenders there. Goodness. A conditional 7th round pick. What is a condition of a 7th round pick? Do you actually get drafted? I mean, that's a deep round to actually have a condition attached to it. But obviously a lot of you guys who follow these chat boards and who follow these transactions and stuff like this, the Moneyball kind of people out there, you probably know exactly what this means. And you probably think that actually is a good idea. Nicholas Waugh. Okay, this is one of those big money guys. So the Avalanche gets Nicholas Waugh to. I've been talking about how they've been tightening up their defense. They're tightening up their offense. This is actually a solid player to come over to the Avalanche to bolster an already very stacked lineup. So he comes from the Leafs for a conditional first-round pick. That's why I say big game, because it's a conditional first-round pick in either 2027 or 2028, and a conditional 5th-round pick, it looks like, in 2027. Okay, VGK. VGK gets Dowd, basically, or is it Down? Nick Down, sorry. I thought it was Dowd. Maybe it is Dowd. You guys can correct me on the chat, on the message board. He gets to VGK from the Capitals for goalie Jasper Vikman, a 3rd-round pick in 2027 and a 2nd-round pick in 2029. So, yeah, Nick Dowd going over to the Vegas Golden Knights. They're still dealing. They're still filling a couple of spots. I think that's what happens when you get an injury to somebody like, Mark Stone. You got to kind of play on the fly like that. You got to make a couple of moves here or there. So that's what they're doing. They grabbed 2 players, I believe. Okay, so I said that they got Smith from the Predators, I believe. And then here they are getting yet another player from the East to come and play. Okay, big move. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. But before we talk about the biggest move of yesterday, Connor Garland is going to Columbus Blue Jackets from Canucks for 2nd and 3rd round picks. Now, this was the big one yesterday. This is where the Sabres said we're basically in it to win it this year. The Sabres are basically tied with Tampa Bay right now. Tampa Bay's lost 3 in a row. The Sabres, Tampa Bay still has 2 games in hand on the Sabres, but they're both atop the Atlantic with 80 points. Red Wings are 3 points back of that. But the Sabres came to play because they dealt to get Luke Schenn and Logan Stanley from the Jets. So, I keep seeing Alex Tuch being one of those possible chip for any kind of trade, and I know that they're not going to do anything to get rid of Tuch. I know getting Logan Stanley and getting Luke Schenn is a huge upgrade to the team, and I don't see them giving away somebody that's clicking so well with Trevor Thompson as Alex Tuch. As much as I would love to have Alex Tuch on the Red Wings right now, I don't think it'll happen until at least the offseason after the Stanley Cup Finals come and gone. Anyway, so that's really a lot of the action. That was quite a busy 11 o'clock hour, I guess you could say, being March 5th and the deadline being today. So there may, by the time that some of you are even tuning into this, the deadline will have already passed. Those of you tuning in live, it's coming. Here we go. There might be some phones ringing off the hook here as we speak, and you may be seeing it on your little ticker tapes and things like that. But a busy day yesterday. We kind of expect those kinds of things, whether it'll be a fanatic and a frantic 11 o'clock hour today, basically before the trade deadline is done, is yet to be seen. Going back, I want to talk a little bit about this because I am very excited just to see number 57 back for the Red Wings. And I don't know, basically looking at the lineup, I don't see anybody wearing 57 since he left. He's been in Ottawa for the last 2 seasons. He hasn't factored in much in Ottawa. Not as much as I feel like he factored in Detroit. But this guy is 37 years old and he's in his 19th season. And he's played for 9 different teams. He's basically had encores with St. Louis and he's had encores now with Detroit. He's played for Edmonton. I already said St. Louis. Played for VGK. This is where I came to know David Perron. Was that inaugural year for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he led the team in assists with 66. I believe that William Karlsson led the team in points and goals or something like that. But when I found out Perron was coming to the Red Wings the first time around, I was ecstatic about it because I really liked him as a player and I liked seeing how he would factor in with the Red Wings. And you guys remember 2 seasons ago, basically his last season with us. You remember a couple of those games down to the wire where we basically were done and out if we lost and we forced overtime. Remember his shot from the point, basically a buzzer beater, as close of a buzzer beater as you're going to get to force the overtime, and they win in overtime to the point where the Red Wings were still alive until the shootout on game 82. And a lot of that was due to this clutch play from David Perron. So he does bring experience with him, obviously. We may not even see him play, but I am excited at the notion that he might be here to help us out in the playoffs. He does great in the playoffs, and he's got the playoff experience. He's got 110 games of playoff experience under his belt, and I think that may be the factor that a lot of these chat rooms are talking about is why he is going to be, maybe an asset to the Red Wings, even if he's just coming in during the playoffs. You heard me talk about his conditional for this transaction. We may not even have to give anything up to have him, honestly, which is weird. But still, the fact that we could have him and have all that playoff experience, have him out there on those morning skates, having him, JVR, Kaner, and Larkin all working with these guys, trying to help them to get a little bit more savvy. Larkin only has 1 season of playoff experience. And it was a 5-game. I think it was a 4-1 series loss to Tampa Bay in 2016, I want to say. So it's not like he's got a lot of playoff experience himself. He just has a lot of experience. But Showtime, he definitely does, and yes, Perron does too. So if that's whatever it is, if it's kind of the Showtime kind of experience, except for just with somebody who doesn't have nearly as many career points as Patrick Kane, fine. If that's his purpose here, I love it because I love him as a player. I liked him as he was my second favorite player to March or so when he played for the Golden Knights. He was my second player to Larkin when he was here with the second player to Larkin, Raymond, and Kaner. I mean, second, third, fourth, whatever. To me, if you're not my favorite player on the Red Wings, it's because you're not on the team. Because I feel like I say that I have a favorite player like every other day, and somebody new is my favorite. They're all my favorite, as long as they're doing great and contributing. So I am kind of interested to see if he comes off the IR as we're wrapping up the season, maybe making some kind of play for, if we're already inside the playoff bubble, a higher seed instead of being a 4 seed, maybe jump into a 3 seed. Who knows? Taking on a 6 instead of taking on a 5. But regardless, I'm happy to have him back. I know he's played tons of hockey over a 19. I realized he had played for 19 seasons. I didn't realize this is his 19th season in the NHL. I knew he played for a long time in St. Louis, but I didn't realize he played for, besides St. Louis and Vegas and Detroit, I didn't realize he played for a whole nother 6 teams. And that includes Edmonton, Anaheim, Pittsburgh. VGK, I already said he's played a lot of places. Anyway, folks, I hope you all have a good weekend. We're way over 82,000 views and counting. I believe we're at video. This might be our 78th video. But Monday we'll have a recap of tonight's game as well as Sunday's game. I believe they have a game on Sunday. So we'll have a 2-game recap. And hopefully we'll see ourselves still up there. If not, still in third, maybe even in second. Who knows? Maybe Tampa Bay might be losing yet another and another in a row, and we might leapfrog them. Of course, they still have the games in hand. That's one of the things we still need to that's one of the reasons why we need to win, because these other teams have a game or two in hand to catch up with us. So get back on your winning ways. Get winning in LCA, please. Do not make it 5 in a row lost at LCA. Let's see if we can turn this around. In the meantime, this has been Red Wings Daily. I'm your host, Kirk MckNight, LGRW from the PNW.